Maya had always thought being a twin was just about sharing the same birthday and looking similar. She and her sister Arya lived in different cities now, about 800 miles apart. Maya was studying at a university in the north, while Arya was finishing her degree down south. They talked on the phone regularly, but nothing seemed out of the ordinary. That changed during her second year of college. Right around October, Maya was sitting in her dorm room, staring at her chemistry textbook, when she felt this sudden urge to call Arya. Not just the usual "I miss you" feeling, but something stronger, something that made her heart race a little. She picked up her phone and was about to dial when it started ringing. "I was just about to call you," Maya said, answering without even looking at the caller ID. "That's weird," Arya laughed on the other end. "I had this feeling like you needed to talk to someone." Maya paused. "I didn't need to talk. I just wanted to hear your voice." They both went quiet for a moment. Then Arya changed the subject, asking about Maya's classes and her roommate drama. Maya forgot about the strange timing of the call until it happened again 3 days later, and then again the following week. At first, Maya convinced herself it was just coincidence. Twins were supposed to be close, right? Maybe they just understood each other's schedules. But the calls kept happening at the exact moments when Maya was thinking about Arya. Not just thinking about her casually, but when Maya felt that specific pull to connect with her sister. The real wake-up call came during finals week in December. Maya was having the worst time of her college life so far. Her organic chemistry class was destroying her confidence. She'd always been good at science, but this professor seemed to speak a different language. Every practice test made her feel more lost. Every study session left her feeling like she was drowning in formulas she couldn't understand. One evening, Maya sat in the library until it closed, surrounded by textbooks and crumpled papers. Her mind kept spiraling. What if she failed? What if she had to change her major? What if she wasn't smart enough for pre-med? The thoughts kept getting darker and heavier. She felt like she was sinking into quicksand, and every attempt to climb out just made her sink deeper. Maya walked back to her dorm in the cold December air, feeling completely alone. She hadn't told anyone how badly she was struggling. Not her parents, not her friends, not even Arya. She was too embarrassed, too scared that admitting her problems would make them more real. She had just gotten back to her room and was sitting on her bed, still in her winter coat, when her phone buzzed. A text from Arya. "Are you okay? I have this really strong feeling that you're drowning in something heavy right now." Maya stared at the message for a full minute. She read it 3 times to make sure she wasn't imagining the words drowning. That was exactly how she felt, but there was no way Arya could know that. They hadn't talked in 4 days, and Maya had been careful to keep her struggles to herself. She called Arya immediately. "How did you know?" Maya asked as soon as Arya picked up. "Know what?" "That I was drowning." Arya was quiet for a moment. "I don't know. I was just sitting here working on my art history paper, and suddenly I felt this wave of, I don't know how to describe it, like panic mixed with sadness, and I kept thinking about you. It was so strong I couldn't concentrate on my work." Maya felt chills run down her spine. "What time did you feel this?" "Around 9:30. "Why?" That was exactly when Maya had been sitting in the library, having her complete breakdown about chemistry. She told Arya everything about the failing grades, the confusion, the fear of disappointing everyone. As she talked, she could feel some of the weight lifting from her chest. "I wish I was there," Arya said softly. "I hate that you're going through this alone." "But you're not really alone, are you?" Maya found herself saying. "You felt it. You knew something was wrong." They talked for 2 hours that night. Arya helped Maya make a plan for getting tutoring help and talking to her professor. But more than the practical advice, Maya felt better just knowing that somehow, across all those miles, her sister had sensed her pain. After they hung up, Maya lay in bed thinking about all the times their calls had lined up perfectly, all the moments when Arya had texted her just when she needed to hear from someone, all the times Maya had felt compelled to reach out to Arya, only to find out later that Arya had been having a rough day. Was this normal for twins? Maya had other friends with twin siblings, but she'd never heard them talk about anything like this. She started paying more attention to the timing of their conversations. The way Arya seemed to know things without being told. A week later, Maya was walking to class when she suddenly felt incredibly homesick. Not just missing home, but a deep, aching longing for her childhood bedroom, her mom's cooking, the way the house smelled like vanilla candles. The feeling was so strong it almost made her cry right there on the sidewalk. That afternoon, Arya called their mom out of nowhere. Maya found out later that Arya had told their mom she was feeling homesick and wanted to hear about what was happening at home. Their mom had been so happy to hear from her that she'd call Maya afterward to tell her about the conversation. Maya started keeping a small notebook, nothing fancy, just a little pad where she wrote down the times when she felt strong emotions, or when Arya called unexpectedly. She didn't tell anyone about it, not even Arya. She just wanted to see if there was really a pattern or if she was imagining things. The pattern was undeniable. When Maya felt particularly happy about something, Arya would text her something cheerful within hours. When Maya was stressed about an upcoming exam, Arya would call to check in. When Maya was excited about a date, Arya would send funny memes about dating. But the most striking entry in Maya's notebook came after spring break. Maya had gone to visit some high school friends, and the trip had been disappointing. Her friends had changed, or maybe she had. Either way, she'd felt left out and sad the whole weekend. She'd come back to school feeling lonely and disconnected from everyone. She hadn't told Arya about the trip going badly. In fact, she texted Arya a few photos that made it look like she was having a great time. But 3 days after Maya got back, Arya showed up at her dorm. "I drove all night," Arya said, standing in Maya's doorway with a duffel bag and dark circles under her eyes. "I couldn't shake the feeling that something was really wrong. Like, really wrong." Maya burst into tears. She hadn't even realized how much she needed her sister until Arya was standing there. They spent the weekend together, talking about everything and nothing. Arya didn't push Maya to explain what was wrong, but somehow her presence made everything feel manageable again. It wasn't until Arya was getting ready to drive back that Maya asked, "How did you know to come?" Arya looked uncomfortable. "I don't know. I felt like you needed me." "I know that sounds crazy." "It doesn't sound crazy," Maya said. "I think something is happening between us, something I don't understand." Arya nodded slowly. "I've been thinking the same thing, but I didn't want to say anything because I thought you'd think I was being weird." They didn't talk about it more that day, but Maya knew they both felt it. There was something connecting them that went beyond normal sibling closeness, something that let them feel each other's emotions across hundreds of miles. Maya closed her notebook that night and put it in her desk drawer. She didn't need to keep tracking the coincidences anymore. She knew they weren't coincidences at all. Whatever was happening between her and Arya was real, and it was getting stronger. She just wasn't sure if that was a good thing or something to be worried about. Maya couldn't stop thinking about what was happening between her and Arya after spring break. She decided she needed to understand this connection better. She started her notebook again, but this time she was more scientific about it. She wrote down not just when Arya called, but exactly what she was feeling beforehand. The first real test came during her statistics class. Maya was sitting in the back row, completely lost in a lecture about probability distributions, when she decided to try something. She closed her eyes and concentrated on feeling really happy, not fake happy, but genuinely joyful. She thought about the time she and Arya had gotten caught in a rainstorm during a camping trip and ended up laughing so hard they could barely walk. Within minutes, her phone buzzed. A text from Arya. "Just remember that time we got soaked camping and couldn't stop laughing. Made me smile during this boring lecture. Hope you're having a good day." Maya's heart started racing. She looked around the classroom to see if anyone had noticed her reaction, but everyone was focused on the professor's equations. She stared at her phone, reading the message over and over. This couldn't be a coincidence. That night, Maya called. "Arya, But she didn't mention the statistics class experiment. Instead, she asked casual questions about Arya's day, trying to see if there were other connections she'd missed. "Oh, weird thing happened today," Arya said. "I was sitting in my medieval history class, and I suddenly got this wave of confusion. Like, really intense confusion. But the professor was just talking about stuff I already knew." Maya felt her stomach drop. What time was that? Around 2:30. Why? That was exactly when Maya had been lost in statistics. She'd been feeling overwhelmed and confused about the probability formulas. But she couldn't tell Arya that without sounding crazy. "Just curious," Maya said, trying to keep her voice normal. Over the next few weeks, Maya started doing small experiments. She focused on specific emotions at random times and wait to see if Arya would react. She felt a little guilty, like she was using her sister as a test subject. But she needed to understand what was happening. The results were incredible and terrifying at the same time. When Maya felt excited about a guy in her chemistry study group, Arya texted her asking if she was dating anyone. When Maya felt stressed about her part-time job at the campus bookstore, Arya called to complain about her own work stress. When Maya felt proud after giving a good presentation, Arya sent her a congratulations message before Maya had even mentioned the presentation. But the most shocking test came on a Tuesday in April. Maya was having lunch with her roommate when she decided to try something stronger. She thought about their grandmother, who had passed away 2 years earlier. She let herself feel the sadness and the missing her that she usually tried to push away. Her phone rang 15 minutes later. "I just called Mom," Arya said, her voice shaky. "I don't know why, but I suddenly missed Grandma so much I could barely breathe." Mom said she was feeling the same way today. Maya excused herself from lunch and went to her room. This was beyond what she'd expected. She wasn't just sending emotions to Arya. She was triggering memories and feelings about specific people. "Are you okay?" Maya asked. "Yeah, I think so. Just one of those days, you know. Do you ever feel like Grandma is trying to tell us something?" Maya's hands were shaking as she held the phone. "What do you mean?" "I don't know. Sometimes I feel like there's more going on than we understand. Like maybe people who are close can feel each other even when they're far apart." Maya almost told her everything right then. But something held her back. What if talking about it made it stop? What if Arya thought she was losing her mind? "Maybe," Maya said softly. "Maybe some connections are stronger than others." The experiments continued, but Maya started to notice something troubling. The connection seemed to be getting stronger on its own. She didn't have to concentrate on emotions anymore. Arya was picking up on things Maya wasn't even trying to send. One evening, Maya was studying for a biology exam when she started feeling incredibly lonely. Not just missing Arya, but a deep, hollow feeling like she was the only person in the world. She hadn't been thinking about loneliness at all. It just washed over her like a wave. 20 minutes later, Arya called, crying. "I feel so alone," Arya said. "I know I'm surrounded by people, but I feel like I'm on a desert island." Does that make sense? Maya's blood ran cold. That was exactly how she'd been feeling. But she hadn't sent that emotion to Arya. She'd just been experiencing it herself. "Where are you right now?" Maya asked. "At a party. There's like 50 people here, and I should be having fun. But I just want to hide in a corner." Maya realized something terrifying. The connection was working both ways, and she was receiving Arya's emotions without even knowing it. That sudden loneliness hadn't been hers at all. It had been Arya's, transmitted across hundreds of miles. "Come home," Maya said. "Just leave the party and go home." "I can't just leave. My friends will think I'm weird." "Arya, trust me. Go home now." Something in Maya's voice must have convinced her. Because Arya said goodbye to her friends and left, she called Maya back from her apartment. "I feel better," Arya said, sounding surprised. "As soon as I got home, that awful feeling went away." Maya stayed on the phone with her for an hour, and during that time, she felt completely normal. But as soon as they hung up, the loneliness came flooding back. Maya realized she was still connected to Arya's emotions, even when Arya was feeling better. This was getting dangerous. Maya was starting to have trouble telling the difference between her own emotions and Arya's. She'd feel anxious about an exam, only to find out later that Arya had been stressed about a paper. She'd feel excited about nothing in particular, then discover that Arya had gotten good news about an internship. The worst incident happened during finals week. Maya woke up at 3 in the morning with intense stomach pain. She thought she was getting sick, but when she tried to go back to sleep, the pain got worse. She was about to call the campus health center when her phone rang. "I'm in the emergency room," Arya said, her voice tight with pain. "I think my appendix is about to burst." Maya's stomach pain disappeared immediately. She'd been feeling Arya's appendicitis from 800 miles away. While Arya was in surgery, Maya sat in her dorm room, monitoring her own body for any signs of what her sister was going through. She felt the anesthesia making her drowsy. She felt the relief when the surgery was over. She felt the grogginess of waking up in recovery. It was like she was experiencing Arya's medical procedure through some kind of invisible connection. When Arya called her the next day, Maya was exhausted. "You sound terrible," Arya said. "Are you getting sick?" "I'm just tired," Maya said. But she knew it was more than that. She was tired from experiencing Arya's surgery. She was drained from feeling emotions that weren't her own. She was scared because this connection was getting stronger and more intrusive. Maya started doing research online. She looked up twin telepathy, psychic connections, and emotional synchronization. Most of what she found seemed fake or overly dramatic, but there were some scientific studies that mentioned unusual connections between twins. They used terms like emotional contagion and empathic resonance. The more she read, the more Maya realized that what she and Arya were experiencing wasn't completely unknown, but it also wasn't normal, and according to everything she could find, it was supposed to be rare and usually not this strong. Maya started keeping 2 notebooks now, one for tracking when she felt Arya's emotions, and one for tracking when Arya seemed to pick up on hers. The pattern was clear and frightening. They were becoming emotionally synchronized in ways that were starting to interfere with their individual lives. Maya began to wonder if this connection was something to be grateful for or something to be worried about. She'd always felt lucky to have such a close relationship with her sister, but now she wasn't sure where Arya ended and she began. The question that kept her awake at night was simple but terrifying. What happened when twins became too connected? And was there any way to turn it off? Maya thought knowing about the connection would make everything easier. She was wrong. If anything, being aware of it made everything worse. Now she couldn't experience any emotion without wondering if it was really hers or if she was picking up something from Arya. The first sign of trouble came during summer break. Maya had gone home to work at a local coffee shop, while Arya stayed at school for an art-intensive program. Maya thought the distance and different schedules would give them both some space, but the opposite happened. Without their regular phone calls to release the pressure, the connection seemed to build up like steam in a pot. Maya would be taking orders at the coffee shop when suddenly she'd feel overwhelmed by creative frustration. She'd mess up simple drink orders because her mind was flooded with thoughts about color theory and canvas textures, things she knew nothing about. Later, she'd find out that Arya had been struggling with a painting at exactly that time. But Maya was starting to do something that scared her. Instead of just receiving Arya's emotions, she was becoming obsessed with fixing them. When she sensed that Arya was stressed, Maya would call her 5 or 6 times a day, trying to solve problems that Arya hadn't even told her about. "You called me 4 times yesterday," Arya said during one of their conversations. "What's going on?" I could tell you were having a hard time with your art project." "How could you tell that?" "I didn't say anything about it." Maya didn't know how to explain without sounding crazy. "I just know you, I guess." "It's getting a little intense, Maya. I love that you care, but sometimes I need to work through things on my own." Maya hung up feeling frustrated and hurt. She was trying to help, but Arya didn't seem to appreciate it. What Arya didn't understand was that Maya couldn't just ignore the flood of emotions. she was receiving. When Arya was upset, Maya felt like she was drowning in someone else's problems. The situation got worse when Arya started dating someone new. Maya had been having a normal day at the coffee shop when she was suddenly hit with a wave of excitement mixed with nervousness. Her hand started shaking as she made a latte, and she couldn't understand why her heart was racing. That evening, Arya called to tell her about meeting someone at her art class. His name is David, and he's incredible. Arya gushed, "I've never felt this way about anyone before." Maya felt sick. She'd been experiencing Arya's romantic feelings for a stranger all day. She'd been living through her sister's first date emotions, without even knowing there was a first date. "That's great," Maya said, trying to sound supportive. But inside, she felt confused and violated. These weren't her feelings to experience. Things got even more complicated when Maya started picking up on Arya's memories. She'd be walking to work when suddenly she'd remember conversations she'd never had, or feel nostalgic about places she'd never been. At first, she thought she was just imagining things, but the memories were too detailed and specific. One morning, Maya woke up with a clear memory of their father yelling at their mother in the kitchen when they were 7 years old. But in this memory, Maya was hiding behind the couch, watching their mother cry. Maya knew she hadn't been behind the couch that day. She'd been upstairs in their room. But Arya had been behind the couch. Maya was experiencing Arya's childhood, memories as if they were her own. She could feel 7-year-old Arya's fear and confusion as if she had lived it herself. The emotional impact was just as strong as if it had been her own memory. This was the most disturbing development yet. Maya called Arya immediately. "Do you remember the time Dad yelled at Mom about the credit card bills?" Maya asked. "Which time?" Arya said sadly. "They fought about money a lot when we were 7. Mom was crying in the kitchen." "Yeah, I remember that. Why? Where were you during that fight?" Arya was quiet for a moment. "I was hiding behind the couch. I was scared Dad would start yelling at us too." "Why are you asking about this?" Maya's blood ran cold. I was thinking about it today." "That's weird. I've been thinking about that day too. I had a dream about it last night after they hung up." Maya sat in her room, shaking. She wasn't just receiving Arya's current emotions anymore. She was accessing her memories. The boundaries between them were dissolving in ways that felt dangerous. Maya started seeing a counselor at the community center. She didn't tell the counselor about the connection directly, but she talked about feeling overwhelmed by other people's emotions and having trouble maintaining healthy boundaries. "It sounds like you might be an empath," the counselor said. "Some people are naturally more sensitive to others' feelings, but it's important to learn how to protect yourself." Maya wanted to laugh. If only it were that simple. She wasn't just sensitive to others' feelings. She was living inside her sister's emotional world. The counselor taught her breathing exercises and visualization techniques for creating mental boundaries. Maya tried them all, but nothing worked. The connection with Arya was too strong to be blocked by meditation. By the end of the summer, Maya was exhausted. She was living two lives, her own and Arya's. She'd wake up tired from dreams that weren't hers, feel emotions that belonged to someone else, and carry memories of experiences she'd never had. The worst part was that Maya started to lose track of who she really was. When she felt happy, she couldn't tell if it was because something good had happened to her or because Arya was having a good day. When she felt sad, she didn't know if she should deal with her own problems or worry about what was wrong with Arya. Maya began to resent the connection. What had once felt like a special bond now felt like a prison. She couldn't have a private moment or a personal emotion without wondering if Arya was experiencing it. She started pulling away from Arya, but that only made things worse. When Maya tried to distance herself emotionally, the connection seemed to fight back. She'd feel Arya's confusion and hurt over Maya's sudden coldness, which made Maya feel guilty, which made Arya feel guilty, creating a feedback loop of negative emotions. Maya realized she was trapped. She couldn't live with the connection, but she couldn't live without it either. Cutting herself off from Arya felt like cutting off a part of herself. But staying connected was slowly driving her insane. The breaking point came in late August. Maya woke up one morning feeling absolutely terrible about her appearance. She looked in the mirror and saw nothing but flaws. Her nose was too big. Her skin was awful. Her hair was a mess. She felt fat and ugly and worthless. These thoughts were so intense and cruel that Maya started crying. She'd never been particularly worried about her looks before, but now she felt disgusting. She couldn't even look at herself without feeling sick. She skipped work and spent the day in bed, hating herself for reasons she couldn't understand. It wasn't until Arya called that evening that Maya realized what was happening. "I think I have a problem," Arya said, her voice small and scared. "I can't stop thinking about how I look. I feel like I'm hideous, and I know it's not normal to feel this way, but I can't make it stop." Maya's heart broke. She'd spent the entire day experiencing Arya's body image issues as if they were her own. She'd been living through her sister's struggle with self-worth, feeling every cruel thought Arya had about herself. "When did this start?" Maya asked. "A few weeks ago. It's getting worse every day. I think I might need help." Maya realized that the connection wasn't just sharing emotions anymore. It was sharing problems. Arya's struggles were becoming Maya's struggles, and Maya didn't know how to help either of them. That night, Maya made a decision. She had to tell Arya about the connection, even if it meant risking everything. They couldn't continue like this. One of them was going to break, and Maya wasn't sure which one it would be. Maya spent 3 days trying to figure out how to tell Arya about the connection. Every conversation starter she thought of sounded crazy. How do you tell someone that you've been living inside their head for months? How do you explain that you can feel their emotions and see their memories? The decision was taken out of her hands on a Thursday morning in September. Maya woke up feeling absolutely nothing about food. Not hungry, not full, just completely disconnected from the idea of eating. She went to the kitchen to make breakfast, but standing in front of the refrigerator felt overwhelming. Everything inside looked wrong somehow. Without really thinking about it, Maya started throwing food away. The leftover pizza from 2 nights ago, the meal that still had a week left before expiring, the apples she'd bought yesterday. She tossed everything into garbage bags, feeling a strange sense of relief with each item that disappeared. Her roommate walked into the kitchen as Maya was emptying the last of the cereal boxes into the trash. "What are you doing?" Lisa asked, staring at the chaos. Maya looked around at what she'd done and felt confused. "I don't know," she said honestly. All of this felt wrong. "Maya, you just threw away like $100 worth of food. Are you okay?" Maya wasn't okay, but she couldn't explain why. She cleaned up the mess and went to class, but she couldn't concentrate. The disconnected feeling about food stayed with her all day. She skipped lunch because nothing seemed appealing, and by dinner time, the thought of eating made her feel anxious. That evening, her phone rang. Arya was crying so hard Maya could barely understand her. "I think something is really wrong with me," Arya sobbed. "I threw away all my food today, and I don't know why I did it. I just looked at everything in my kitchen and felt disgusted." Maya's heart stopped. "What time did you throw the food away?" "This morning, around 9. "Maya, I think I might have an eating disorder. I've been having such weird thoughts about food lately. I look at myself in the mirror and I feel huge, even though I know I'm not. I count calories obsessively, and I feel guilty every time I eat anything." Maya felt like the world was spinning. She'd thrown away her food at exactly 9 in the morning. She'd been acting out Arya's eating disorder without even knowing Arya had one. "How long has this been going on?" Maya asked, her voice shaking. "A couple of months. It started slowly, but it's getting worse. I'm scared, Maya. I don't feel like myself anymore." Maya realized she had to tell Arya everything right now, before this got any worse. "Arya, I need to tell you something, and you're going to think I'm crazy." "What do you mean?" "I threw away all my food this morning too, at exactly 9 o'clock. Arya stopped crying. "What? And yesterday I spent an hour staring at myself in the mirror, thinking I looked terrible. And last week I felt incredibly homesick. For no reason, right before you called Mom. Maya, what are you saying? Maya took a deep breath. I think I can feel what you feel. I think we're connected in some way that isn't normal. When you're sad, I get sad. When you're excited, I get excited. When you threw away your food this morning, I threw away mine too. The silence on the other end of the phone lasted so long that Maya thought Arya had hung up. Are you still there? Maya asked. You think you can read my mind? Arya's voice was flat. Not read your mind exactly, but I think I can feel your emotions. And lately, I've been getting some of your memories too. Maya, that's impossible, is it? Think about all the times I've called you right when you needed to talk. Think about how I always seem to know when something's wrong. Remember when you had appendicitis and I felt sick at the same time? Arya was quiet again. Then she said, I've been having the weirdest dreams lately. Dreams about things that happened to you, not me. I dreamed about your first day of college, but I was seeing it through your eyes, not mine. Maya felt a chill run down her spine. You've been getting my memories too? I thought it was just because we talk so much, but Maya, in the dream, I knew things I shouldn't have known, like how nervous you were about your roommate, and how the dining hall smelled like disinfectant. They talked for hours that night. Arya admitted that she'd been feeling things that didn't make sense for months. She'd wake up anxious about exams she didn't have, or feel excited about things that hadn't happened to her. She'd been dismissing it as stress, but now she realized it lined up perfectly with Maya's experiences. I think I've been trying to protect you from some of my feelings, Arya said, especially the bad ones. I didn't want you to worry about me. But that made it worse, Maya said. When you try to hide emotions from me, they come through anyway. But I don't understand what they're about. So what do we do now? Maya had been researching online for hours while they talked. I found some studies about twins who have unusual connections. It's rare, but it's real. Some researchers think it can happen when twins have shared trauma. You mean like mom and dad's divorce, or before that, all those fights when we were kids? Maybe we learned to tune into each other's emotions as a survival mechanism. Arya was crying again, but quietly this time. Maya, I'm scared. I don't know where I end and you begin anymore. Sometimes I can't tell if I'm feeling something because it's happening to me or because it's happening to you. I know, Maya said. I feel the same way. What if we can't fix this? What if we're stuck like this forever? Maya had been wondering the same thing. She'd found message boards where other twins talked about similar experiences, but most of them just lived with it. Some said it got better over time. Others said it got worse. A few said it had destroyed their relationship with their twin because they couldn't handle the constant emotional intrusion. I think we need help, Maya said. Professional help. Someone who understands this kind of thing. What if they think we're making it up? Then we'll find someone else. Arya, we can't keep going like this. Your eating disorder is becoming my eating disorder. My anxiety is becoming your anxiety. We're making each other worse. Arya agreed to see someone, but she was worried about finding the right therapist. Maya had already been looking into specialists who worked with twins in unusual psychological phenomena. She'd found a few names, including a researcher who had written papers about twin telepathy. There's one more thing, Arya said as they were getting ready to hang up. I think the connection is getting stronger because we've been trying to fight it. When I try to block you out, it's like the emotions build up pressure and then explode. Through anyway, Maya realized Arya was right. The more they tried to have separate lives, the more invasive the connection had become. It was like their minds were fighting to stay linked. Maybe we need to learn how to manage it instead of trying to stop it, Maya said. How do we do that? I don't know yet, but I think we need to stop keeping secrets from each other. If you're struggling with something, you have to tell me, because I'm going to feel it anyway. And it's worse when I don't understand what's happening. Arya promised to be more honest about her problems, and Maya promised to stop trying to fix everything. They made an appointment with a therapist who specialized in twin studies for the following week. As Maya hung up the phone, She felt something she hadn't experienced in months: relief. Not the borrowed relief of Arya feeling better, but her own. Genuine relief, for the first time since this all started. She felt like they might be able to figure it out. The connection was still there. She could feel Arya's exhaustion and hope mixing with her own. But now that they both knew what was happening, it felt less like a curse and more like a problem they could solve together. Maya fell asleep that night feeling cautiously optimistic. Tomorrow, they would start learning how to live with their unusual gift without letting it destroy them both. Dr. Chen had been studying twins for 20 years, but she'd never seen a case quite like Maya and Arya's after their first session, where both sisters described identical emotional experiences, happening hundreds of miles apart. Dr. Chen recommended they work together intensively for several months. What you're experiencing is real, Dr. Chen told them during their second visit. I've documented similar cases, though yours seems particularly strong. The good news is that you can learn to manage this connection rather than be overwhelmed by it. The first thing Dr. Chen taught them was something she called emotional labeling. Whenever Maya or Arya felt a strong emotion, they had to stop and ask themselves 3 questions. Where am I right now? What happened just before I felt this? Does this feeling match my current situation? Maya practiced this during her morning routine. She woke up feeling anxious about an art project, but then remembered she didn't have any art classes. She was hundreds of miles away from any art supplies. This had to be Arya's anxiety, not her own. Instead of calling Arya immediately to fix the problem, Maya did what Dr. Chen had taught her. She acknowledged the feeling. I'm sensing that Arya is stressed about her artwork. Then she sent a simple text, thinking of you today. Hope your project goes well. 20 minutes later, Arya texted back, thanks, I really needed that. Having a tough morning in the studio. Maya felt proud of herself. She'd acknowledged the connection without getting pulled into Arya's problem. She'd offered support without trying to take over. But learning to manage the connection wasn't easy. There were still days when Maya couldn't tell which emotions belonged to her. The eating disorder symptoms were the hardest to handle. Even though Arya was getting treatment, Maya would still occasionally feel the urge to skip meals or exercise excessively. Dr. Chen taught them visualization techniques. When Maya felt emotions that didn't match her situation, she was supposed to imagine putting them in a box labeled Arya's feelings and setting the box aside. It sounded silly, but it actually works sometimes. Arya learned similar techniques for when she picked up on Maya's emotions. She got better at recognizing when her sudden feelings about chemistry homework or coffee shop stress weren't really hers. The biggest breakthrough came 3 months into therapy. Maya was having a particularly bad day. She'd failed a quiz, spilled coffee on her laptop, and gotten into an argument with her roommate. She was sitting in her room feeling sorry for herself when her phone rang. I feel terrible, Arya said, but I don't know why. Nothing bad happened to me today. For the first time, Maya realized that Arya was picking up on her emotions in real time. Maya was having a bad day, and Arya was feeling it even though Arya's own day had been fine. I'm the one having a bad day, Maya said. You're feeling my emotions right now. Really? That's so weird. Your bad mood feels different from mine. How? I can tell it's not really mine. It's like wearing someone else's clothes. It doesn't quite fit right. This was a huge discovery. If they could learn to recognize the difference between their own emotions and each other's, they could manage the connection much better. Dr. Chen was excited about this development. She had them start keeping emotion journals again, but this time they marked whether each feeling seemed to belong to them or to their twin. After a few weeks, patterns emerged. Maya's emotions felt sharp and immediate to Arya. Arya's emotions felt softer and more distant to Maya. Maya's memories came to Arya in black and white, while Arya's memories came to Maya in vivid color. Everyone's emotional signature was slightly different, like a fingerprint. Learning to distinguish between their emotions helped with the practical problems too. When Maya felt anxious about food, she could usually tell now whether it was her own anxiety or Arya's eating disorder symptoms bleeding through. When Arya felt overwhelmed by schoolwork, She could recognize whether it was her own stress or Maya's. But the connection wasn't just about problems anymore. As they learned to manage the difficult aspects, they also rediscovered the positive sides. When Maya felt proud after giving a good presentation, she could consciously share that confidence with Arya, who had a presentation the next day. When Arya felt creative and inspired, she could send some of that artistic energy to Maya, who was struggling with a creative writing assignment. Dr. Chen called this intentional sharing versus emotional leakage, instead of emotions randomly spilling over between them. They could choose what to share, and when Maya graduated with a psychology degree, partly inspired by her own experiences. She learned so much about consciousness and connection through working with Dr. Chen that she wanted to help other people who had unusual experiences. Arya finished her art degree and created a series of paintings about identity and connection. The paintings showed two figures who were separate but linked by streams of color that flowed between them. The series launched her career and helped her process everything she'd been through. Years later, Maya became a therapist herself, specializing in helping twins and other people with unusually close relationships. She never forgot how isolating it felt to experience something that most people didn't understand. Arya moved across the country for graduate school, but the distance didn't weaken their connection. If anything, it became more manageable because they'd learn how to work with it instead of against it. Maya could still sense when Arya was in real trouble. When Arya's apartment was broken into, Maya woke up at 3 in the morning with a jolt of fear that didn't belong to her. She called Arya immediately and talked her through calling the police and staying safe until help arrived. Arya could still feel Maya's big emotions. When Maya got engaged, Arya felt a surge of joy so strong that she started crying in the middle of a museum, not knowing why, until Maya called her with the news an hour later. But they also learned to give each other privacy. Maya didn't feel every small frustration Arya had with her classmates. Arya didn't experience every moment of Maya's relationship drama. The connection was still there, but it focused on the important things. Maya's wedding was the first time they'd been in the same place for more than a weekend in 3 years. As Maya got ready, she could feel Arya's excitement mixing with her own. But instead of being overwhelming, it felt like having her sister's love and support flowing directly into her heart. "I can feel how happy you are," Arya whispered as she helped Maya with her dress. "It's beautiful. I can feel how proud you are of me," Maya said back. "Thank you for being here. Not just physically, but, I know." During the ceremony, Maya felt completely herself for the first time in years. Her emotions were her own, but she could sense Arya's love and support like a warm blanket around her shoulders. The connection that had once threatened to erase her identity had become a source of strength. Maya's husband understood about the twin connection. She told him early in their relationship, and he'd seen it in action enough times to believe it was real. He sometimes joked that he was marrying both sisters, but he said it with affection. When Maya and her husband had their first child, Arya felt the moment the baby was born. She was in her studio 3 time zones away when she suddenly felt overwhelmed with love and protectiveness for someone she'd never met. She called the hospital and talked to Maya while Maya was still holding her newborn daughter. "She's perfect," Maya said. "I can feel her," Arya said, crying. "I can feel how much you love her already." The connection had evolved again. Now it included Maya's child in some ways. Arya could sense when the baby was sick before Maya even called to tell her. When the baby took her first steps, Arya felt a burst of pride and joy that made her laugh out loud in the middle of a gallery opening. Dr. Chen had told them that twin connections often changed over time, especially during major life events. Marriage, children, career changes, all of these could affect how the connection worked. But Maya and Arya had learned enough about managing their bond that they could adapt to these changes. Maya often thought about how different her life could have been if she and Arya hadn't learned to work with their connection. She'd seen other twins whose relationships had been destroyed by similar experiences. Some became so codependent they couldn't function separately. Others cut off all contact because the emotional intrusion was too overwhelming. Maya felt lucky that she and Arya had found a middle path. They were still closer than most siblings, but they were also fully independent people with their own lives and identities. The connection was part of who they were, but it didn't define them completely. Sometimes Maya wondered if their children would inherit some version of the connection. Her daughter showed signs of being unusually empathetic, and Arya's son seemed to know things he shouldn't know, but Maya wasn't worried about it anymore. If the next generation experienced something similar, Maya would know how to help them navigate it. The connection that had once felt like a curse had become one of the greatest gifts of Maya's life, not because it was easy or convenient, but because learning to manage it had taught her so much about love, boundaries, and what it meant to be truly close to another person. Maya's story wasn't unique. Dr. Chen had worked with dozens of twins who experienced similar connections, but each case was different, and each family had to find their own way of living with their unusual bond.